The surface upon which we live is flat, stationary and enclosed with a dome. Actually, there is more to the dome than that, but that will be a topic for another video. For the purposes of this video, I will refer to the dome as such. In this video, however, I will be focusing on the sun and on a layer of the dome. An issue that hasn't been explained by flat earthers is the fact that the days in the so-called southern hemisphere are just as long during the so-called southern summer as the days in the so-called northern hemisphere during the so-called northern summer. Technically, that would be an impossibility because the sun travels at a higher speed during the southern summer. So, the days in the so-called southern hemisphere should be much shorter as a result of that, but that is simply not the case. The days during the southern summer are just as long as the days during the northern summer, and it is exactly this discrepancy that is being widely used as a ridicule by critics of the flat earth truth. According to all flat earth models, the sun is being depicted as if it hangs somewhere between the dome and the surface upon which we live. That is incorrect. The sun is not a separate body hanging below the dome while it's making its circular motions. The sun is within the dome. The dome consists of several layers. The sun is behind one of the dome's layers. It means that there is a layer between us and the sun. The layer which is between us and the sun is transparent. Also, the layer has magnifying properties, similar to the properties of a magnifying glass. And it has the properties of a mirror as well. Above all of that, the sun itself changes its altitude depending on the seasons, meaning that it makes up and down motions as well as its circular ones. So, the issue about the same length of days can be explained by adding a few properties to the sun and to the layer that is between us and the sun that haven't been mentioned before. The sun makes not only circular motions, but it makes up and down motions as well. And by combining that with the magnifying properties of the layer which is between us and the sun, it illuminates a larger area during the so-called southern summer, resulting in the fact that days during the summer period are equally long regardless whether you're in Australia or in Europe. The mirroring properties of the layer that is between us and the sun also creates an opposite direction of the stars in the so-called southern hemisphere. For that, see the video from the link. Another issue that needs explaining is the fact that the areas at sea level are receiving the most of the sun's heat. Logic would dictate that the temperature should become higher the closer we get to the sun, but that is not the case. This fact can also be explained by the magnifying properties of the layer between us and the sun. It's just like a magnifying glass through which the sun's heat can target a specific area, and the area being targeted is the surface area at sea level, and higher mountainous regions receive much less of the sun's heat while being closer to it as a result of it. I have also been able to draw several other conclusions from the fact that the sun shines through a layer with magnifying properties. One of my conclusions is that the actual strength of the sunlight and the sun's heat is much less powerful than it seems to be. The sun's heat and its light are being reinforced many times over due to the magnifying properties of the layer. All of this means that the sun is much more energy efficient than it seems to be. The true power of the sun is only a fraction of the power that we receive. It's these magnifying properties of the layer that is between us and the sun that substantially reinforce the sun's power. I have also concluded that the true size of the sun doesn't correspond with the size that is being given by people from the flat earth community. According to some people, the sun appears to be somewhere between 300 and 500 km in diameter. Others have estimated that it's much smaller, but either way, the sun's true size is much smaller, and it only appears to be bigger because it's behind a magnifying layer of the dome. Also, the sun appears to be bigger during sunrise and sunsets, a fact that can also be explained by the same magnifying layer. In my opinion, the sun collects and emanates energy simultaneously. It's a giant energy efficient light bulb. It makes circular motions as well as up and down motions depending on the seasons. And it's behind a layer with magnifying and mirroring properties.